A very busy day of weather in the Northeast. We've got heavy rain, flash flooding, and we have an ongoing tornado watch. We've already had several tornado warnings in a few places. We're going to get right to it in short order. We'll talk about other things going on around the country, including hot weather in the Southwest. Calvin is heading for Hawaii in a more weakened state, not as a hurricane, but maybe as a weak tropical storm. So we'll talk all about that today on this Sunday morning. Jumping on early, Joe and Joe Weather Show, brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York. Best place to go and nearby to get whatever it is you need to not only get through the day, but to get through the coming days with severe weather potential and hurricanes on the calendar at some point. 631-756-1125 is the phone number. The website, omnitruevalue.com. And Tempest by Weatherflow. To get the revolutionary Tempest weather system, you can join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is pinned at the top of the chat board. It's also on the descriptor to this video. And if you use the coupon code Joe and Joe Weather Show, you will get 10% off. So it's a solo show for me today, folks, because Joe Rayo, those of you who are regulars know that he has been dealing with an ongoing flooding issue with these heavy rains that we've been getting, and it's only gotten worse since he got clobbered on, was it Thursday night into Friday morning, I believe, with another 4 inches of rain. So we got more water in his basement, and then trying to repair it has become a bit difficult. So we wish him the best and hope that he can get this all sorted out. But it's very frustrating when you have something like this happen when you get flooding. And those of you who have gone through this know that all too well. That it can be difficult to deal with and nerve-wracking. So I thought, I know we have an 11 a.m. start, but I see the folks that were on the chat board early, and given all the weather that's going on, I figured let me jump on right away, and we'll take a tour of some of the radars and see what's going on. So this is from UCAR. We're using the composite radar, and you'll notice that in the last couple of hours, a very, very impressive area of rain and thunderstorms rolled through central Long Island and Suffolk County, now coming onshore into Connecticut. And the solid area of rain that came in through the overnight hit parts of northern New Jersey particularly hard. There were a number of flash flood warnings up. There still are, by the way. And we've also seen, I saw 2 tornado warnings early this morning. One in northern New Jersey, I believe it was in Morris County, and another one in the Hudson Valley as well. And this leads me to what is happening with regards to, we'll come back to the radars in a moment, but we have an ongoing tornado watch that covers it. New York City is just outside the tornado watch zone. Eastern portions of Westchester and Putnam counties. Putnam's kind of right on the border there, and also covering Nassau and Suffolk counties, all of Connecticut except Litchfield County, all of Massachusetts except the western 2 counties, New Hampshire, southern and central New Hampshire, and a small portion of southern Maine. This watch up until 3 p.m. The tornado risk is indicated as moderate, which you don't often see. The EF2 tornado risk is considered low. The severe wind risk of 50 knots or higher is considered moderate, but 65 knot winds are considered very low. So is severe hail and 2-inch hail. I usually don't pay much attention to that, but given what's been going on this morning and how quickly the SPC responded with the tornado watch, I figured it was something to highlight that in a situation like this, when you have a stalled frontal boundary, you could get tornadoes to just spin up very quickly. Sometimes they do, and then they die off just as fast. But nonetheless, it is we do have a really solid tropical air mass that we're in, and you're seeing all this shower and thunderstorm activity continuing to move to the north-northeast. And that, by the way, is problematic because if you look at the southwest, Yeah, this first batch is kind of pulled out, but there's a lot of stuff that's forming in clusters behind it. So we're still not done. This is going to take a while to work through. And I'm thinking we'll probably have to deal with this through the middle and late afternoon, particularly up into New England. Now we've got some heavy rains moving into southern New Jersey, and you see this patch of yellow seems to be diminishing a bit, quite a bit, as it moves to the northeast. But then another one follows up in southern New Jersey. You see it there. This is the first batch dies off, then a second batch starts to form again, and that's moving northeastward. We also have in western New Jersey and southeastern Pennsylvania. We're looking. We just, by the way, also just came off a tornado watch that was very close to Philadelphia, but we do have another complex of downpours and some thunderstorms moving out of eastern Pennsylvania and into western New Jersey. So again, there's more to go here with regards to dealing with showers and thunderstorms into the afternoon. And I'm going to pull up the wider radar view here so we can at least take a look at what's going on as far as any kind of warnings. Now we do have a bunch of flash flood warnings. I just saw a little tornado warning that went up. So let's go to Tornado HQ and take a look at what's ongoing with respect to watches and warnings. So tornadohq.com is a pretty handy website if you want to get all the watches and warnings that are going on at the same time. So here's a close-up view of the current radar, and you see the severe thunderstorm warning there. So I'll just run down a little bit further and take a look here. So we have all the tornado warnings here have expired. Okay. There is they all expired within the last 30 minutes to an hour. So we could just say that at least storms that either were capable of, I think they all said they were capable of producing tornadoes. None of these are confirmed. One in Hillsborough County in New Hampshire, Middlesex and Worcester counties in Massachusetts, Montgomery County and Philadelphia County in Pennsylvania, Rockingham and Stratford County in New Hampshire with tornado warnings. Just looking back, Middlesex County earlier this morning with a tornado warning, as well as it seems like there have been several around the Hillsborough, Merrimack, Rockingham area today. And then another one in Massachusetts, in Essex and Middlesex counties. Again, this was earlier this morning. So it's been very busy. At the moment, there is one severe thunderstorm warning that expires in about 10 minutes. And this is for Connecticut and Massachusetts. This is for Tolland, Wyndham, Hamden, Hampshire, and Worcester counties in Connecticut and in Massachusetts. So that seems to be all that's left of severe weather warnings, at least for now. So we'll go back. Let's take another radar check here and go up further to the north. By the way, while I'm loading the map, Trish Sparaccio, thank you for hitting Super Chat this morning. Most appreciated for hitting the tip jar on this busy Sunday morning. Hope everybody is safe and sound. Let's go to the box. Let's go to Boston. And here's the Boston radar, so you can take the view of the last 4 hours. Just starting to get into a little bit of some shower and thunderstorm activity now, reaching the Boston area. Massachusetts is pretty well covered with showers and storms, particularly you see in the western part of the state. Also up in Vermont and New Hampshire, southern and central Vermont, New Hampshire. This area up in central New England, particularly troublesome because of all the rain that they had last Sunday and subsequent thunderstorms that they dealt with this week. One of the big issues going on here is the fact that there have been areas that have gotten up to a foot of rain in the last 7 days. Now think about that. That's a month's worth of rain. I'm sorry, that is 3 months or even 4 months worth of rain in 6 days. I mean, that's a ton of precip. So with the heavy rain that we're getting this morning, the threshold for flash flooding is really low. I mean, you just put a half inch of rain to come down hard enough, you're going to have some flash flooding, especially in and around rivers that have to be well up, into their banks. And here's the Albany radar. Much of eastern New York now seems to be out of it. But again, to the southwest, we are still seeing some showers and a few downpours coming out of northeastern Pennsylvania and running back down into the Hudson Valley. So, maybe some places get a bit of a short break, but we're still going to be at risk for some showers and thunderstorms, at least for a while. And I'll go a little bit further south. We'll take the docks radar, which is now unavailable. That's from Dover, Delaware. So let's go to um, the radar in Washington, D.C., Sterling, Virginia, and you can see heavy thunderstorms from southern New Jersey down into southeastern Delaware and further south into the Maryland side of the Delmarva Peninsula, moving to the northeast. We also have some storms that are developing from Washington, D.C., south and west, east of Charlottesville, and going southwest from there. And you can see some bigger cells now forming east of I-95. Those look like in the direction that they're moving in would probably pass east of the Washington, D.C., Baltimore area. So just a ton of stuff that is happening. So let's take a look with respect to the Storm Prediction Center. Just want to go back to their main page here, and you'll see there's a marginal to slight risk of severe weather from eastern Virginia northeastward almost all the way up into northern New England with the exception of central and northern Maine. They just issued a mesoscale discussion on the tornado watch. So let's take a look, see what they're saying about this. Isolated damaging winds and a brief tornado could continue through this morning. Multiple low-top thunderstorms remain embedded within a broad plume of warm advection. In other words, warm tropical air surging northward up the coast. Related precipitation across parts of New England this morning. Both low and mid-level lapse rates. In other words, how fast are temperatures declining with height? So the higher you go, the cooler it gets. But the faster it gets, you see the lapse rate. If it really cools down considerably, that is bullish for thunderstorm development. Now, they're noting that the lapse rates are rather poor, and this is likely hampering updraft intensity to some extent. So that the poor lapse rates are actually holding thunderstorms down a bit. The Cape levels are on the lowish side, but they say even though a veering, strengthening wind profile has been noted through all the low and mid levels, and accounting for current thunderstorm motion yields, now they're starting to get really technical here about the shear, but it would be sufficient for occasional low-level updraft rotation and some threats for a brief tornado. Isolated damaging winds may also occur with water-loaded downdrafts in the more linear structures that can be maintained. So again, rain is the big deal here. I mean, not that the other things aren't, but rain is still front and center with regards to all of this. The Weather Prediction Center has a marginal risk of flash flooding down to southeastern Virginia. Then you get into the slight risk, which is 15 to 40% for the Delmarva Peninsula, eastern Pennsylvania, and on up into upstate New York. And then you see where the red line goes from, just northeast of Albany, southwestward to the Jersey-Pennsylvania line that kind of loops around into northern Delaware. All of that is a moderate risk, and that extends up through New York City and most of Long Island, southern and southeastern New England, as well as central New England, and nosing up into northern New England. Moderate is a 40 to 70% chance that we could see some flash flooding. Now, the rainfall totals, you were kind of at the point here where it's sort of like, all right, how much has fallen and how much more were we going to get? And this is WPC's forecast from 7 a.m. this morning. They expected at least a widespread area of 1.5 to 2.5 inches from, let's say, southeastern Virginia, or actually the Delmarva Peninsula, northeastward into New England. Now, that's the smoothing of it. But in cases like this where you're dealing with convection, you are always going to wind up with places that are going to get clobbered. Do they catch us? So, for instance, if you're in an area and you look at the radar and you see rain echoes that are are blossoming and strengthening as they are approaching you, you have a much greater risk of seeing some sort of crazy downpour that puts down a couple of inches of rain very, very quickly. So my general rule with these things is, okay, you broad brush an inch and a half to say 3 inches, double that. That locally you could wind up with 3 to 6 inches of rainfall in a situation like this. We saw that happen last Sunday, and we are seeing it already again today. So Joe Arabia, who is on Long Island, reporting 4.5 to 5.75 inches of rain and ice slip to Sayville. And you know what, Joe, thank you for the observation. And yes, when we saw on the radar from earlier, and I'll go back to the UCAR radar because I have a 4-hour loop that's set up here. So we'll go back to that, and you can see what happened here. They got that area got absolutely nailed by this cluster of heavy thunderstorms that moved in from the southwest from off the ocean. You see it there, and I don't know if I can draw on this, but it just kind of tracked right in this direction and moving on to the north-northeast. And it illustrates what I was saying before. That area blossomed out to the southwest, was blossoming out and strengthening as it approaches. So when you see that, when you see that happen, that's when you get clobbered with the locally heavy rains. Now, on the other side of that, when you see a system that's strong but then is in a weakening trend, the likelihood that you're going to get some sort of bonus amount of rain out of it is lower because you're catching something that's going on the downside. It's in a weakening phase as opposed to being in a strengthening phase. I want to take a look at what we got with respect to flash flood warnings up. Let's do that, and we'll start to take a look at what the NAM has to offer. And here you see the Christmas tree lit up with flood watches, and just about almost all of the state of New Hampshire right now is under flash flood warnings, except the northern 2 counties are not at this moment, but that could very well change. And here's from the Weather Service. You have flash flood warnings up everywhere in the state of New Hampshire. The yellow is the tornado watch. You have a couple of counties in northern Vermont which are under flash flood warnings at the moment. We'll head down to the Boston office. There's your one severe thunderstorm warning that we highlighted earlier. That extends from north central Connecticut northeastward, just north and west of Worcester and just south of Fitchburg. A lot of flash flood warnings up in Massachusetts and Connecticut, particularly in central Connecticut, right down the Connecticut River Valley. That includes Hartford, Springfield in Massachusetts. It includes Hartford. New Haven is in it. Looks like Bridgeport is just out of it. We'll look at the New York office. And by the way, I'm just noticing too, I mean, talk about being saturated in a tropical air mass. Temperatures are in the upper 70s to around 80. I mean, it's just really ridiculous how warm and muggy it is, and how high the dew points got. I mean, this is another setup with an absolutely tropical air mass in play. The yellow, again, all of that is tornado. In New Jersey, looks like the flash. Okay, there's one working flash flood warning at the moment, and that's in just north and west of Philadelphia. So let me just get that correct here. Let's make sure. Flash flood warning in effect for northeastern Chester County, and they're talking about rainfall. 1 to 2 inches of rain have already fallen, and an additional half inch to 1.5 inches possible in the warned area. Flash flooding is ongoing or is expected to begin shortly. And that's what I was talking about earlier with respect to the very low thresholds for flash flooding. It's 11:02. Excuse me. It's 11:02 Eastern Time. And welcome to those of you who may have just joined the Joe and Joe Weather Show. I had set an early start time of 11 a.m. Eastern And then I heard from Joe Rayo, who said he was not going to be able to come on. So I decided at that point, it was about a quarter to 11. I figured with everything that was going on around us, might as well jump on early. So don't worry, I'll go back to the radars in a little while, and we'll take a look at what's going on. But in the meantime, just want to show you the surface map here. And we've got this stalled frontal boundary running through New Hampshire into southern New York, cuts across Pennsylvania, west of I-81, down into western Virginia, western North Carolina, and then snakes around to North Georgia, just north of me. It's not much of a cold front down here in the southeast, as I'm noticing. The dew points are actually just as high behind it as they are ahead of it. So I'm not thinking it's going to make much of a difference. And there's another stalled frontal boundary that's running back up across the Great Lakes. You really have to head up into the Dakotas and into Minnesota, where you start seeing places where temperatures are in the 50s, and we've got a nice cool Canadian air mass coming down with temperatures from early this morning at 8 a.m. in the 40s. But no question in terms of what's going on in the eastern part of the United States. I mean, this is a stalled frontal boundary with a saturated tropical air mass up and down the eastern seaboard, and just enough of a flow aloft to bring up little short waves, and you wind up getting clobbered with thunderstorms. Here's what it looks like on the satellite loop, and I want to bring up another thing here with the satellite loop that I think we should pay attention to in the coming days. You'll notice on the loop that milky white is back in Indiana, Illinois, Missouri, Iowa, South Dakota into Montana, Michigan. That is all smoke again. Where with this upper trough, the way it's set up, it's beginning to pull down smoke from northern Canada, from the wildfires there, and spreading it back in. I would imagine that some of that may be getting into the east in the coming days, but you know what? That's a problem for tomorrow. In the meantime, at least as of 11 a.m. Eastern time, when we look at the satellite loop with the lightning strikes, a lot of the lightning strikes have kind of faded here in the Northeast and down from New England down into New Jersey. So that's not a bad thing. Okay, that's a good thing. So at least some of these storms may have peaked in intensity, but there'll probably be some more developing to the southwest. You can see some storms off the North Carolina coast, some patchy storm activity moving through parts of Texas and Oklahoma, another little complex into eastern Nebraska, northeastern Kansas. The west is just enjoying sunshine, but they're not enjoying the extreme heat that is going on in a number of places in the southwest. Here's the northeast satellite view on the loop, and we'll let this reload. You'll notice here too the lightning strikes from about 4 hours ago, a little more numerous, but they're on the downswing, which is a plus. Now we'll just have to keep an eye on whether we see some development. I just noticed here on the visible loop, and there's a little. You noticed that there's a little twist there in south central Virginia. So that's a little shortwave that's moving northeastward. So perhaps as that lifts northeastward in the next few hours, we might see a few more storms start to fire up. So we'll have to watch that as that tracks up to the northeast. The wide radar view, and we'll give it a quick refresh here. So we have the latest with regards to whatever watches and warnings are up. Come on. Come on, load for me. It doesn't seem to want to load. Okay, well, it's a storm and everybody's busy, so we'll come back to the wider view. The Storm Prediction Center, as you look at the screen that has the outline tornado watch there, the red box. We also have marginal risk from Louisiana northwestward into Texas and Oklahoma. We have marginal risk in the middle and upper Mississippi Valley and the Missouri River Valley Basin, with a slight risk area indicated in Kansas and into northwestern Missouri. For the next couple of days, we are looking at tomorrow. We catch a break right down the coastal plain in areas that are dealing with flood watches now. They're not even into the general thunderstorm area for tomorrow. So we may actually have a day tomorrow where there won't be anything with regards to showers and storms, although you don't have to go too far west into Pennsylvania where you start to get into the general risk and the marginal risk that you're seeing up in the parts of Ohio and into northern Kentucky, southeastern Indiana. You're seeing a marginal to slight risk for Kansas and northeastern Missouri, northwestern Missouri, northwestward into South Dakota, and another small area in Montana. Let's take a look at Tuesday, where we could see perhaps another chance for some storms. General thunderstorms pretty much everywhere east of the Rockies, but not a whole lot of risk being indicated here. Marginal to slight risk from Nebraska and South Dakota southeastward into Kentucky and southern Indiana and into southern and central Illinois. The NAM model. So let's look at this is where I think the NAM model's done a pretty good job yesterday in picking up on what's going to happen today. And its latest run, that first surge just sort of plays through, and then it fills in a bit, but then it starts to shift out. This is at 5 o'clock in the afternoon today, and you see the back edge is now really drying up quickly as it does so, and everything starts to shift away and weaken. And it looks like weather conditions could improve from west to east later this afternoon and this evening, and then it should get this frontal boundary far enough offshore so that we're out of this. Although you'll notice that there are some cells that clip eastern Long Island and southeastern New England tomorrow morning. But other than that, to the west of there should be some improvement, and then we'll have a decent day. And then we'll roll into Tuesday as we have another front that's approaching. Right now, this is where the models get a little squirrely when it comes to showers and thunderstorms. They're not awfully good once you get beyond 24 to 36 hours with regards to storm development. So just take a look at the GFS, which I've just switched to. We don't have the new one yet. But with the frontal boundary offshore, showers and storms passing to the southeast and moving northeastward. So we're going to throw in for Tuesday that there could be a shower or storm. The models have kind of gotten a little less bullish with the idea of storms on Tuesday, but I'm going to leave them in. They do pop them up there Tuesday afternoon and evening. And then Wednesday, not much. It looks like a little complex that comes down from the Central Plains, makes its way to North Carolina and the Delmarva Peninsula on Wednesday, but the Northeast and Northern Mid-Atlantic states escape it. And then come Thursday and Friday, we've got another frontal boundary that will approach with maybe some showers and thunderstorms. Hopefully it's not like this. Doesn't look like it because it does seem as if these systems want to try to move along, which is good. The problem's been that lately has been the fact that we get these cold fronts that have been moving eastward, but the trough axis in the upper atmosphere is a little bit too far to the west. And by too far, I mean that because it's a little bit too far to the west, these fronts have had a tendency to slow down as they make their final approach to the coast. Eventually they move off, but they slow down or even stall like this one has temporarily. And you'll notice here there's this upper low from Thursday and Friday that came into the northeast and really hasn't moved through. Part of it moved through Friday into early Saturday. But we still have this broad trough here in the eastern part of the United States. The flow actually bends west-southwest as we go through the day, and it doesn't really push out to the east. It just sort of lingers there, right along 80 degrees west. I mean, here we now into Tuesday and Wednesday, right in here, and you still have that same trough. It's not as strong, but it's still lingering there. We need these troughs to be a little bit further to the east so these weather systems can just move along. And of course, the other thing is, as each one of these pulls out, eventually another one drops in. And here we go at the end of the week. We've got another deep trough dropping into the eastern part of the United States for next weekend. Although this one looks like it wants to move out fairly quickly. So let's hope that it does, because then at least we'll get a front through with some showers and storms and done. And instead of having something like this where we're talking about rain for hours and hours, and then longer term, one trough pulls out, another one comes in right behind it. That's the pattern we're in. We're getting closer. The end of the long range now takes us to August 1st. And I'll just repeat what I've said with respect to the longer term pattern. With these troughs dropping into the eastern part of the United States like this, it's going to be problematic if we get tropical storm development occurring where these storms wind up finding their way somewhere, say, to the eastern Bahamas, if that were to happen. So you don't want to trough along the East Coast. But there seems to be this tendency, it's been going on for weeks now, for troughs to drop into the eastern part of the United States. So, we're going to want to have to start looking at that closely as we get into the month of August. So, in case you didn't know, we had subtropical storm Don, which seems to be losing organization over the central Atlantic at the moment. It's at 39 north and 48.1 west. It's a long ways. It's about halfway out between the New Jersey coast and the Azores. I mean, it's just like literally almost halfway between. So it's a long way from our coastline. It's a long way from the Azores, and it's not going to be causing any issues because it'll just meander out there, and either it goes away or eventually gets kicked out to the northeast. Now, I just want to just briefly talk about Tropical Storm Calvin, which is weakened from a Category 3 hurricane, and we'll probably get into this tomorrow a bit more. Its track to the west-northwest at the moment would take it right over the big island of Hawaii sometime Tuesday evening or Tuesday night, Hawaii time, so Wednesday morning here. But there you go. The track there, west-northwest, and then gradually it weakens. And a lot of these storms do tend to weaken before they get there. So if some identifiable feature does survive, it'll probably mean rain and wind, but it is moving along, so that's a good thing. And it may cause some minor issues, but it should not cause any major issues for the Hawaiian Islands. And at the last advisory from the Hurricane Center, it's at 16 north, 134.8 west. Top winds are 70 miles an hour. That's got to be mileage-wise. I just want to see what they give on the public advisory. My brain doesn't do quick math anymore. It's 1,355 miles east of Hilo, Hawaii, so it's a long ways away yet. Top winds are 70, moving west-northwest at 16. Lowest pressure 993 millibars, 29.33 inches with regards to that. So it might survive as a tropical storm, but I don't expect it really to be a problem. All right, let's go back. Now it's 11:15, so why don't we go back and just take a fresh look at these radars here and see what's going on. We'll start with the OKX radar. Upton, Long Island, you see New England getting hit pretty hard. You saw the heavy rains from a couple of hours ago over Suffolk County, but it looks like there's another big downpour. There's another thunderstorm with heavy rains that on the last frame you'll see it. And again, this is one of those that's in the process of strengthening right in there, and that's moving northeastward. So the same area that got hit is with some big rains. Maybe in for another round, although this one doesn't look quite as large as the last system did. To the south, we're seeing storms and downpours coming out of eastern Pennsylvania and now blossoming out a bit in New Jersey, north of Trenton, and looks like between Somerville and Trenton, somewhere in there, moving toward the northeast. So we'll keep our eyes on that to see whether that winds up being elevated to a severe thunderstorm in time. The Fort Dix radar at 11:15 Eastern time. From this view, you can see that went through Philadelphia, now reforming and strengthening a bit as it moves through north central Jersey, and perhaps on its track it may pass close to Newark and Staten Island, perhaps even to New York City if it holds together. I'm just taking a look to the southwest. There was a cell that came out of eastern Maryland through southeastern Pennsylvania. That's the one that's moved to the northeast. There's still some other blotchy stuff that's to the southwest, but doesn't look all that impressive. Along the coast, just watching what's coming out over Delaware, because the motion taking it north-northeast with trajectory would take it toward eastern half of Long Island and New England in time. So again, the bottom line is there's still more to go here, and maybe we can finally get a wide view of the. Yeah, we do. So you can see the green boxes are all the continuing flash flood warnings that are up, still up for just about all of New Hampshire except the north, the two counties in Vermont, the counties in central Massachusetts and central Connecticut. One in Chester County, just to west and north of Philadelphia, to the west and north of Philadelphia. It looks like a second flash flood warning has gone up for a small portion of southwest New Jersey back into northern Delaware. So, and we also have a couple of flash flood warnings up now. Looks like a long I-95 midway between Richmond and Washington, D.C. We've got two flash flood warnings that have popped up there. So, okay. Thanks everybody for being here. There's a lot that went on this morning. Very, very busy indeed. So please do stay safe today. And hopefully, if you're dealing with rain and heavy rain and flash flooding, wish you well. Hopefully, this gets out of here on time later this afternoon, and we don't see another big area of showers and storms develop. But we certainly need to keep our eyes on the radar. Hopefully, Joe will be back tomorrow, and I hope he gets his flood thing solved. So at least tomorrow we'll have what looks like should be a rain-free day with no issues, and hopefully. He'll get his flooding fixed and taken care of. All right. So everybody have a great Sunday. Thanks for tuning in. And also a reminder for those of you who are watching later in the day, you might watch this video. Please be aware that this was done from 10:45 a.m. to 11:20 a.m. Eastern Time. So a lot of what you're seeing is dated. Please go to weather.gov. To get the latest weather information and the latest watches and warnings that may be effect for your particular area. Just go to the website and go to the National Weather Service, your local National Weather Service office page. If you want to take a look at what's happening with respect to severe weather, you can go to spc.noaa.gov. And the other site I will give you is wpc.ncep.noaa.gov. And on the top of that page, you can click on the flash flood forecast, excessive rainfall forecast. And I'll leave you with this. So, obviously it's already happened, but WPC from yesterday had a moderate risk of flash flooding, easternmost Pennsylvania, all of New Jersey, down to northern Delaware, northeastward, up into southeastern New York and into New England. So flash flood warnings, they still could be certainly additional ones that'll go up this afternoon and into this evening. So everybody have a great rest of your Sunday, and we'll see you tomorrow night at 7:35 p.m. right here on the Joe and Joe Weather Show. Trish Sparacchio, thank you so much for hitting Super Chat. And everybody have a great rest of your day.